place to go. Grab a stack of rock with Mike and the Mad Metal Man. Grab a stack of rock, hold on tight as hard as you can. Keyboard's here, it's time for a party. Come and see, got the comment started. Grab a stack of rock with Mike and the Mad Metal Man. Grab a stack of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a stack of rock with Mike and the Mad Metal Man. Grab a stack of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a stack of rock. Grab a stack of rock.
Hey everyone, welcome to Grab a Stack of Rock for the special post-show chat. 50 years of Iron Maiden. We just wrapped up the first 10 years episode. How did you like that one, Harrison?
It was good, yeah. A bit shorter than usual, but short and sweet. Lord knows we've been going on long for some of these albums, so it's nice to have a quick one every now and then.
Yeah, but you know, I was kind of dissatisfied with it because we recorded that back in January or something. We recorded it a long time ago, and there were some mistakes in there and some things we wanted to add on to and whatnot. So yeah, welcome back to 50 Years of Iron Maiden, the special little bonus chat with Mike and Harrison. First, just some housekeeping, some news and updates. As folks who follow the show know, we have two cast members who are currently suffering some health struggles, one of whom just had a surgery last week and apparently has to have another one in August. So for Metal Roger, you know, raise your fist and yell, send him some support, send Metal Roger, that bald bearded bastard, send him some love. And then we have another cast member who has a surgery on May 30th. I don't like getting preachy, you believe what you like to believe. If you pray, then please send some prayers out for Metal Roger and our other friend here at Grab a Stack of Rock. With that out of the way, we have Chris Sarr in the house tonight. Thank you, Chris. And good thoughts for Roger. Absolutely. Iron Maiden. In the show intro that you just saw, we caught a glimpse of Martin Popoff and his new book, Hallowed by Thy Name, the unofficial Iron Maiden Bible, 666 pages. It is out. If you live in Canada, send Martin a message. There's a special deal on right now where you can get the book and a bonus. So I ordered my copy. As soon as we get it in hand, we'll start reading it, and we're going to get Martin back on to talk about his new book. And finally, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but check out Too Loud, Too Old Music if you haven't already. Subscribe and like Too Loud, Too Old Music, because he's asked me to co-host a pretty big interview, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say who, but it's a big one, and that happens. We record next week, and I don't know when he'll post the episode, but like and subscribe to Too Loud, Too Old Music for that pretty big interview, and definitely the biggest name that I've ever spoken to. So looking forward to that next week. Hi, Melissa, and hi, Darcy. Glad to see you tonight. Well, let's get down to brass tacks, shall we? We took a look at the first 10 years box set here, of which my discs are all mixed up now, of course, because that's just how I roll. But I mentioned in that episode, I said, if you want to hear the story of how I got this box set, watch an episode called Metal TV. Well, because we record all of this stuff out of order, and that's why my hair is like way longer than it was a few minutes ago in the last episode. That show ended up being called Mixtape. And if you didn't see it, I figure, why not just show the story? So for your edification, here is the story of how I acquired this first 10 years box set, and it's a good one. So please enjoy. The Rules, part 19 of Record Store Tales, and it is about how I acquired this box set.
After a few years had gone by, there were just too many damn rules to follow. There were so many, we literally had books full of them, with new rules being added regularly. It was pure insanity, because you had to remember some rule that was made, for example, 26 months ago. Not to mention, if you dug far back enough, you could find rules that contradicted each other. It was like telling a dog to sit and come at the same time. You can't do it. But one rule that stood firm was thou shalt not buy product from a sister store. We had a complex structure of locations, but under no circumstances could a staff member buy product from a store that had a different owner. Their product was for their customers and not for us to pillage. But when one of those owners was a friend, and he sees the Iron Maiden first 10 years box set come in inventory, and they call to tell you that, the rules mean nothing anymore. There were greater goals at hand. This ultra-rare box set was issued in 1990 as 10 CDs, all sold separately. You could also get them on vinyl. I recall seeing a few of them on 12-inch vinyl at my local Sam the Record Man, run by the near-legendary Al King, during one of my many teenage record store excursions. CDs are my preferred format today. Collect all 10 of the Maiden singles and you could send away for the box that contains them. Obviously, a complete set is a rare find. This set came in complete as is. I had the receipt. I paid $135.99 on October 7th, 2003, with taxes $156.39. It was worth every penny, but it was also worth the shit that I caught for buying it from another owner. And did I get shit for it? At best, I was bending the rules. At best. I paid full price, no discount. The owner himself rang it in, and he was happily on board with making a quick buck. He even personally delivered it to Kitchener. He could have simply said no. He didn't. Now, I take responsibility for my actions, but an owner has a lot more say in things than I do. I didn't deserve what happened next. A higher-up stormed into my store, pulled into my office, slammed the door, and yelled, and pointed a lot, and yelled some more. It was a weird feeling. Here I was getting screamed at so much that dogs could hear it 4 miles away, but also elated about getting my Iron Maiden find at the exact same time. It was like I didn't know if I should be happy or pissed off. It's like anytime you see someone trying so hard not to smile. But I pulled it off, and I owned the fucking Iron Maiden First 10 Years box set. Their big argument was it's a bad example to your employees, but really that wasn't an issue. No employees knew about it, not one, until they made a big scene of it by yelling at me in the store. That's what let the cat out of the bag. The one that said I was setting a bad example was the one who informed the world. I walked out of my office, head hanging low, but when out of sight, I grinned ear to ear. Of course, the two people who overheard the whole thing asked about it afterwards. The employee known as the Dandy Douche asked me, do you think it was worth it? And would you do it again? I said, absolutely. But next time I'm wearing a fake beard and mustache, the whole disguise, and buying it in person. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to do that. The Iron Maiden box set was one of the last big items from my Holy Grail list that came in. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story.
I enjoyed that story, actually. So that is the story of how I acquired the box set, and I thought I think it's worth telling because it also, how rare it is to find one intact, like all 10 CDs, and as we said in the actual episode, I have 9 of the 10 coupons because one was used to send away for the box. So Harrison,
these days just buying an individual CD will set you back most of $133.
Now, Harrison, you have a Japanese version of one of these. Is that correct?
Do
you have it handy?
I can.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I should have mentioned this before the show. And also hi to John Clauser.
Reaching behind that. It's at hand, so.
Well, if we want to buy Harrison some time, do we want to buy you some time? 1.5 minutes?
I've just about got it. There's just some Lego in the way. I have to navigate. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Ironically, it's Purgatory / Maiden Japan.
Right.
And there's the Japanese text there. I don't know if it came with an Obi strip or not. I didn't get it with one. The big main difference is the disc. It doesn't have that sort of black
Right.
finish. It's got
I'll
the
show
silver
mine.
finish. And also there's another small difference being that this first 10 years logo here on the cover is smaller, and it doesn't say what single it is, whereas the UK versions in that shield, they actually say what single it is.
So let's just hold them both up for comparison. There you go. You can get a good look there. And unfortunately, as we mentioned in the episode, Harrison's Japanese import, which you would assume would come with Wrathchild, does not come with Wrathchild, which is really unfortunate, but it leaves the US version of that single as the only version that you can get on CD as far as we have said.
It's US version of Killers, is it not?
Right. Sorry. Yeah. The bonus disc in the US version of Killers. Yeah. Which John Clauser has. But it has eluded me thus far. Forgot to mention this earlier. Blotto, a little bit of Blotto news. They've been doing quite well. Their movie, Hello, My Name is Blotto, the movie, has run for 2 weeks in Albany. So I think today is the last day. I think it's probably too late to go see it now, but really, really proud of the Blotto boys, and stay tuned because I hope to talk to them again about the movie. Of course, Metalhead being an iconic Blotto song that perhaps Iron Maiden fans may remember. What else? I had a couple of things I wanted to do, but I'll throw it to you in case you had something you wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, it's not Maiden related, but I've just picked up a few neat CDs. First, I managed to finally track down a CD copy of Alice Cooper's Dada. This was a pristine condition copy that I snagged, bought and shipped to me for only $39 Australian.
And the Australian dollar is about equivalent to the Canadian dollar, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's about 50-50. So, great condition, great price, and a pretty darn good album too. I like it a lot. There's some good stuff on here.
Let's stay on that topic for just another minute, because as you may be aware, I can't remember when you and I first started talking in terms of what I was reviewing, but initially I gave Dada a very negative review, like a 1 out of 5 stars, and I'll tell you why. It was because back then, when I first started writing reviews, I was much more influenced by Sir Martin Popoff himself. And he gave that like a 1 out of 10 in Riff Kills Man. Now, I know, to Martin's defense, he does not necessarily stand by Riff Kills Man anymore. Anytime it has come up, he's kind of like dismissing of that book. But he did give it a 1 out of 10 in Riff Kills Man. So when I wrote my first Dada review, it was very negative. But I actually quite like the album now. I think, though, having said that, one of my favorite songs, I Love America, just does not seem to fit in with the rest of the album at all.
It is still as relevant as the day it was recorded, though.
Anyway, actually, I wanted to run another video clip. This is, again, unrelated to Iron Maiden, but it's all about Harrison. When we did our 100th episode a couple of weeks ago, we had a lot of fun, but I ran out of time and I forgot to run this one clip. So this goes back to the first year of the show. This is like heading into this is like the 1 year point of the show. And we were still kind of doing the random and chaotic themes, but we also used to do a thing called Ask Harrison. And we had a whole bunch of fun with the Ask Harrison questions, but eventually I started doing them myself in character. So this is a clip from the 100th episode that didn't get used. Ask Harrison.
Mike, the screen is this way.
Oi, it's not Mike. It's Noirison, your multiversal counterpart from the Adventures of T-Bone Man. How you doing, Harrison?
Whatever it was, I didn't do it.
Well, I'll tell you something. We got an old clip of me asking you an Ask Harrison question. You want to take a look?
Dare I say, why not?
Oi! G'day, mate. It's me, Noirison, your multiversal counterpart from the Adventures of T-Bone Man. Good to see you, Harrison. Hey, did you know that in my universe, and probably yours too, mustaches were outlawed during the Edo period in Japan? What would you do if mustaches were outlawed? That's something I've always wanted to know. Well, take care.
I think that was about 5 different nationalities at once. Well, in a hypothetical situation where mustaches are outlawed, I'd also hypothetically be able to grow more of a beard than that scruff. So if the mustache had to be shaved, I'd grow the beard like everywhere else and just have the outline of the mustache.
I'm not allowed to have one.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, my wife wouldn't kiss me if I had a mustache or a beard, so I like that. So, you know,
That's fair.
Easier to keep it off.
That was like a video within a video within a video. It was like one of those movies, like trying to think of the one. Inception's the one. Yes, that was like the Inception version of Grab a Stack of Rock. That was funny, and also look how much longer your hair was back then.
Yeah, it was quite long. Yeah, it's weird because I consider like shoulder lengths to be like short for me, whereas for most people that's like really long.
Oh man, that accent. I apologize to the continent of Australia. Speaking of Australia, you guys are heading into winter now, aren't you? Or the colder
Yeah, it's
months,
been sitting
anyway.
at about 25 Celsius for a while now, but it is going to start getting colder now as we go into June, July. At least I hope it is.
Well, I know that you don't like the heat, and I can tell you that it's getting hot in Canada, but it's only going to get hotter because we've got more 50 years of Iron Maiden coming, folks. Oh, yes, indeed. I believe you and we're going live next weekend.
Yes.
Apologize to Scott. I wasn't trying to do Scottish. I wasn't. Oh. Anyway, yeah, we're planning on going live 1 week from tonight to do Maiden England, the live album. So I got to start doing my listening. What do you think? We got to do Maiden England, and we also have to mention the video too, I think, because there was for physical product.
Well, they initially came out as a CD video pack. Well, it initially came out as a video, right? And you got a CD with it of a sort of an abridged version of the show. And then it got that reissue in 2014 with the double disc with the full show on it. So I'm just going to use the double disc as my reference because that's what I think of as Made in England. That's what I've got. The DVD has the same track listing as the double disc.
Right. For me, I'm going to be definitely using the Made in England double disc for my listening, but for physical product, I'm going to be doing both because I do have.
Yeah, it's really cool. You've got the original, you know, the cross purposes live sort of deal with the VHS and the CD.
Except for the fact that it comes in a clamshell instead of a cardboard case. And here's a funny story for you. This could be kind of a prequel to next week, but I bought that CD VHS combo probably around 1996-ish. It was on a Toronto trip. Well, maybe not Toronto. I'm not sure where I bought it, but it definitely wasn't in town. I'm thinking it was probably Toronto, but I got home. I was really excited. I popped the video into the VCR and got like garble static because of the zones. It's a PAL VHS. And I was so crushed, man. I was like, man, I think, okay, I now remember. I bought it at the HMV in Guelph, Ontario. That's where I bought it. I remember now. And I do believe it was around 96. But I was crushed because it was expensive. It was like, I don't know, maybe 50 bucks, something like that. Maybe 60 in 1996. In 1996 dollars. So I got it home and I was just absolutely crushed. But I looked in the yellow pages and found a video conversion company like for another 30 bucks. They put it on to North American. I can't remember the Can't remember the initials.
NTSC.
NTSC.
Non-translating something.
Yeah. So I paid another $30. I felt like an idiot. And, after that transfer, it wasn't even all that good, to be honest with you. It wasn't a very good transfer. So I barely watched a video back in those days. And also, there was the issue with the CD was missing 3 songs, which we'll get into next week.
The encores, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's funny, I got a bootleg DVD of Cross Purposes Live, the Black Sabbath album from 2003. Ironically, that's the best damn transfer of the VHS I've ever seen. Whatever black magic they were working, like in 2003, to get such a good transfer of that VHS, unbelievable.
That's cool. We might have to talk about that when we do a bootlegs episode, because that's technically a bootleg. We have Henry. Is Guelph bigger than Kitchener? No, it is not. So let's just talk about Guelph, because it came up during the Blotto show. Guelph was one of the towns that Blotto played when they toured Southern Ontario. Guelph is where my dad grew up. It is just to the east of Kitchener. It's much smaller, but that's where my daddy was born. And I spent a lot of time in Guelph in the olden days. And our city did have an HMV. It had 2. It had one at Fairview Mall, and it had one at Conestoga Mall, I want to say, in Waterloo. But the thing is, Henry, as we discovered, you go from town to town, and different stores had different stock. And it was, fortuitous that I found it.
Toronto would get everything first.
And I can also tell you something else, Harrison, related to Black Sabbath. That's a funny story, by the way, on Record Store Tales. Maybe we should do a retelling of that story one day. Lost my train of thought. Also at that HMV, same trip, I bought Black Sabbath, the Sabbath Stones, which was like, what is that? I've never seen this. I've never heard of this, never seen it. It's got the greatest hits of Tony Martin plus bonus tracks with Ian Gillan and
Glenn.
Ronnie Dio, I think. Glenn Hughes. And interestingly
it's still
enough,
a cool disc even today.
Great disc. It's the best way to get Loser Gets It All, because I don't think Loser Gets It All is on the box set, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I might have misspoken. I thought that they didn't include it.
No, it's here. It's here on the CD version only, and up until now, it was the only way to get it. But it's still a really cool CD because it's more than 80 minutes, isn't it?
Correct. It's just a couple seconds over 80 minutes. You knew where I was going with that. A lot of people say it's impossible to go over 80 minutes. Check out the Sabbath Stones. And it's a great CD. I still listen to it today, because when you just want like a single disc comp of that period of Sabbath, Bob's Your Uncle. It's perfect. But yeah, I haven't given that Anno Domini set enough of a listen, because to be truthful, I bought it for the Forbidden Remix because I already had every other track. So I only ripped the Forbidden Remix to my computer. I haven't played the other CDs yet.
Yeah. Me, I had absolutely nothing of that, so I was really glad to finally pick up those Tony Martin albums.
Now, one thing I didn't like about that box set was that the Eternal Idol does exist in a superior double disc deluxe edition. So, that's always a superior listen for me. You got to wonder.
Eternal Idol's not even on the box set anyway, so that's
am I screwing everything up tonight? I'm screwing everything up tonight, aren't I, Harrison? Okay, folks, just ignore me. Just ignore me tonight. Let me skip to something else. I've been spending a lot of time on Reddit lately, primarily to advertise 50 Years of Iron Maiden and the Iron Maiden group there. But today, there were 3 separate people who own the first 10 years box set complete with box on vinyl. And I've never even seen a complete one on vinyl. Yeah, 3 people. And I've never even seen one.
Vinyl single of them.
I have, because when I was growing up, going to Sam the Record Man, they had them, but they didn't have the CDs. Now, many times on my trip to Sam the Record
Man, not Sam the CD Man.
Check out this guy. Many times on many visits, and I started seeing them in early 1990. I had them in my hands, and I was like, I should buy this, but I think they were about $40, something like that. They were double vinyl, and I just never bought one. I wish, obviously, with the 2020 hindsight that we have, but I think in some sense, I was thinking in my mind, well, they're reissues. They'll never be have the same value as an original. I prefer originals. I think that was my thinking back then as a kid, but obviously we know now that those are incredibly valuable as well.
Yes,
but
I
great.
believe you asked Rob about it at one point.
Yeah, I did. I talked. No, I didn't. Rod Smallwood had an Ask Me Anything thing on the internet in like 2003-ish. And so I asked Rod Smallwood. It was around the time that Marillion issued their singles box sets. They did Fish Years and a Hogarth Years, all of which are EMI, same as Iron Maiden. So this is what kind of triggered the thought was, boy, would it be cool if Iron Maiden did a series of reissues the same way, the same style. EMI could just, reuse the packaging. It's Derek Riggs' artwork. Wouldn't that be amazing? And Rod Smallwood was very curt by saying, nope, been there, done that, next. So don't expect a reissue of this kind of stuff to happen again, at least in the foreseeable future, because Rod did say, and that was not that long ago when you think about it, 2003. He was not interested at all in doing these singles again. So, and we're going to be talking about the Eddie's Archive box set as well. And we've
yes, that scratched a lot of itches with B-sides.
But of course, it's not nearly complete.
Yes, a lot of live B-sides were left off it.
Right. And studio ones too.
Yes, a few studio ones as well, but it was mostly live stuff that was left
mostly
I mean, in some cases it made sense to leave something off, where it was like they put like not Gangland, what was it? What did they put on the B-side of Purgatory? It was like Genghis Khan. Oh, I've got this damn CD right here. Yeah, they put Genghis Khan. Version. So obviously that's not going to go on Best of the B-sides because you get it on Killers sort of thing. But stuff like Massacre didn't make it off the Can I Play With Madness, I believe it was single.
Yeah, that could, I think that's right. And the Blaze years were underrepresented as well.
Actually, I think you got just about it. Yeah, there were two live tracks from Blaze from the Virtual 11 single that weren't on there. But other than that, I think is because you don't get. Oh yeah, and of course, I Live My Way. Yeah, right. That was missing. Yeah. But other than that, yeah, he was pretty well represented. And Rod has some very nice. Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves here for Eddie's Archives, but Rod has some very nice words for Blaze and his contributions in Best of the B-sides.
Speaking of Blaze, I was on his website earlier today, and I went to the Blaze store, and I was going to add some stuff to my cart, and I was going to buy a couple of albums, but then I thought maybe I should wait until I talk to Harrison first. So into my cart, I put Circle of Stone, and he had for only £5, he had an acoustic EP or something like that.
I've got that one. It was originally an EP, but this is sort of a reissue. I don't think he lists all the tracks, but there's 13 tracks on here that you get the because this is it's basically his acoustic. Come on, focus.
Yeah, what's signed?
Yes, it's his acoustic. Well, I guess you could say acoustic. It's his collaboration with Thomas Zuijan, and apologies for the pronunciation, but he's a violin virtuoso, and they've done a couple of collaborations over the years. This collects them all into one, as far as I'm aware. You get the Russian Holiday EP on here. You get his other stuff. They do a version of Sign of the Cross, which is the full Sign of the Cross, him and the violin. At 2 a.m. off the X Factor, a couple of new ones. I really like Miracle on the Hudson, which is about Sully Sullenberger and his heroic landing on the Hudson River. And you can actually see on the cover art.
Oh, there it is.
There's the plane there.
Henry here. Were Iron Maiden singles charting in Canada in the 80s? Because I didn't think they charted in the US. I did see vinyl 45s in the stores. I have a Zellers at nearby, or I had a Zellers nearby, and we bought Run to the Hills on 7-inch there. So yeah, I would say that meant that it was charting. But I was also told this in Reddit today, and this is really cool too, is that those Maiden singles for this set, they were released I think once every. You okay? Oh, you're just trying to focus.
Yeah, it's just blurry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these were released one every 2 weeks. I can't be certain about that. It might have been one every month, but I think the guy in Reddit said one every 2 weeks. Anyway, the point I'm making is they actually started re-charting in the UK when they were re-released in 1990. So Maiden were constantly re-charting throughout the year, which is really cool. I'm glad that we're doing this live stream tonight because there's just so much more to add. There's so much more to say. I have really strong memories of seeing these on vinyl and seeing that little badge and flipping the vinyl over, and it was 2 singles. You know, I have these really strong memories of it. And Harrison, I'm kicking myself. I wish I bought some of those 12-inch singles back then. But then again, my obsessive compulsive disorder would have kicked in as soon as I saw that coupon inside saying that you could get 10 and then buy a box. I would have been broke.
Yeah, luckily, I insofar as completing a collection goes, I only care about getting all the tracks rather than all the releases. So as long as I've got like one of the releases that had a certain track on it, I'm usually happy.
Okay, but at that time, I only had Running Free and I don't know, maybe a couple of the other 12-inch singles. Bob Shipper hadn't sold his collection off yet at that point. So I think I only had Running Free at that point. So I basically could have used every single single in that series. I could have added it to my collection without too much duplication at that point.
What Henry's saying is interesting because there's a couple of stuff like Madness, the band. They had a song called House of Fun that charted in 82. And then they put out a CD single for it 10 years later, which I have. I don't know if it charted then, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did rechart again. Also, Squeeze, Cool for Cats, that charted in the 80s. And then they reissued it on CD single, I think in 1992 as well. So, yeah, what Henry's saying, it's not uncommon for these singles to get a second life sometimes.
Well, that's just fascinating. What else? What else do I have to say?
Just to quickly go back to Blaze, if you have the budget for it, I'd recommend getting Soundtracks of My Life because there are a few Blaze albums on that aren't for sale on his website that you have to buy secondhand that are expensive. Stuff like The Man Who Would Not Die, which has a bunch of great tracks. The King of Metal, the best of which is on here. What else? There's one more. The Best of Promise and Terror is on here. You can buy Promise and Terror on his website, but it's a bit of a dark horse album. So you get the best of that. There is some stuff on here that you already have, but there's also some exclusive new stuff on here and a remix on here. So it's a really good solid package.
Okay. Well, I the bad news is, and this is the conclusion to that story, is that I can't buy it now. I can't afford it because I bought the Martin Popoff book, but it's very nice and it'll be here soon. And
it'll still be there in a while. The Blaze stuff.
Yeah. And we'll show off the Popoff book when it arrives. Hey, maybe we can even do a little bonus episode of an unboxing or something like that. I know Rob Daniels loves when we do unboxing videos, but anyway.
Well, speaking of Rob Daniels, I happen to I know he's doing Assassin's Creed on Visions and Sound, and I happen to pick up the Assassin's Creed Syndicate soundtrack, which is, I think it's a great soundtrack. It's got this sort of Baroque, because this is set in Victorian era London, so you get this sort of Baroque violin and orchestral stuff, but every now and then they chuck in a song that plays in the pubs, basically, and it's just like a vocal performance. And there's one which is this really infectious and catchy piano number called Jokes, 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 which is really fun. And that plays after Maxwell Roth dies in the pub. Because, yeah, as you go through the story, antagonists die. And then each time after they die, the pubs like sing a song about them. And it changes depending on who dies. So,
okay.
Cool little soundtrack there. I'm interested to see which one Rob's going to cover because I've got the Black Flag one as well. But honestly, because it's set in all sorts of different historical periods, you could go to any soundtrack and get a different experience. So I'm looking forward to that episode of his.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to another episode that we did with Rob, but we'll talk about that later. Darcy. What is the best showcase of Blaze's vocals? Okay, I'm going to say something, and then Harrison's going to say the right thing. Okay. I really like his performance on the X Factor. But as far as like his solo stuff goes, I mean, his singing on Silicon Messiah is excellent, really powerful, but man, check out my favorite Blaze Bayley album, which
and mine, I think.
No. Oh, shit.
What's
the name of that damn studio album that I love so much? The orange cover. What's it called?
War Within Me.
War Within Me. See, when I don't prepare for these things,
that's one of his. That's I think. Well, which considering we're talking about vocals as opposed to songwriting, I say for vocals you cannot beat Alive in Poland. It is his finest hour vocally.
That is true. And as actually, I also like the other one, as live as it
yes,
gets,
as live as it gets. But the amount of power and passion and gusto he's bringing to the singing on this album is unparalleled anywhere else in his career. It is an unbelievably good live album. It covers both his Maiden years and his solo years up until this point. Unfortunately, it's one of the ones you can't buy on his website. It's on Metal Mind. It originally came out on Metal Mind Productions, so that's probably why it's a bit different. You can get it on CD and DVD. I have both, but honestly, if you want a good, like, greatest hits of his solo career up until then, his first couple albums, and some amazing performances of the Maiden stuff, you can't beat Alive in Poland. But when it comes to studio albums, I personally think War Within Me is his best in terms of songwriting. It's unreal how good it was.
And Darcy, if you want to hear a little bit more about that, I did an episode a couple of years ago with Jax and Kevin, top 5 bald artists, and Blaze Bayley. He's bald now, so he made my list. I talked about War Within Me, and I discussed. Man, I don't want to give too much away. There's a song in there about Stephen Hawking, and I'm kind of a sucker for certain topics, and I'm a Stephen Hawking fanboy. So when I heard the lyrics, they gave him how many 15 years to live or 3 years to live?
They gave him, I think they gave him 3 years to live.
3 years to live, and then Hawking defied them. It's brilliant. I mean, some people, Kevin thought it was cheesy. I don't know. Maybe it is, but I'm a sucker for that.
There's nothing wrong with cheesiness.
Stephen Hawking,
Metal
man,
has an innate cheesiness to it.
Stephen Hawking's a hero to me, man. Like, he sings a song about Nikola Tesla. He sings a song about Alan Turing. There's oh man, I don't want to give too much away.
Circle of Stone has a song about Blade Runner called Tears in Rain, which is really good.
And Blade Runner, that takes us back to the Somewhere in Time era. But
you can, this is on YouTube, by the way, Darcy, if you want to sample it before buying it, the whole show. So,
I'm looking forward to doing these Blaze episodes, and that's kind of going to be what we're going to be starting to record next. We're passionate Blaze fans, you and I, although we do differ on One Live Bootleg. I think it's safe to say that if you stay tuned to 50 Years of Iron Maiden, prepare to be assaulted by adoration for these Blaze Bayley albums. And some people disagree. Aaron from the KMA is one person who disagrees. But I think, yes, true, Martin Popoff. But I think, and maybe you can confirm or deny, there's a new appreciation for Blaze Bayley, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. He is gaining respect in the metal community and among metal fans far and wide. He has a cult following. If you see a Blaze show on YouTube, it's usually a fairly small room. But man, the fans love him. He's a fantastic performer. He always has a fantastic band. Shout out to Chris Appleton. I mean, I can't say enough good stuff. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but prepare to be hammered by the Blaze Bayley albums, because we've been doing our listening already, and I think I've grown to appreciate these albums more over the years. So
I just love
spoiler,
but I was always coming to these things from a modern perspective, where I have a smorgasbord of Iron Maiden to choose from, and I don't have to worry about, oh my god, is this what Iron Maiden is going to sound like for the rest of their life? This isn't what I grew up on in high school. So admittedly, I don't have that sort of stigma and that baggage attached, which is why I love Iron Maiden. I'm generally always positive about Iron Maiden, but I wasn't there back in the day, so that's part of the reason why my perspective is different on these things.
I remember distinctly, and this isn't a story I'm happy to tell, but back in the early 2000s, it was better for me to play Blaze Bayley era Iron Maiden albums in store, because when I played Bruce era Iron Maiden albums in store, I can remember distinctly kids laughing at the lead vocals because it was so. I'm actually, you know, I'm thinking this is probably more late 90s and early 2000s, because by early 2000s that kind of thing was coming back. So I'm thinking more late 90s. But I remember two kids laughing when they heard Bruce's voice, like the high pitch. They're like, you know, I'm not lying. And it was better for me to play those Blaze albums in store than the Bruce albums. It just fit better with those times. They weren't fun times to be a metal fan when the Blaze era and also the Ripper era of Judas Priest were happening. These were not good times to be a metal fan, at least of my age. For other people, it's like, yeah, this is when I got into Korn and Limp Bizkit, and to me that was kind of like the problem, is that to me that's not what I grew up on. So to me, it just wasn't metal. It was something else. It was something new. They called it new metal, which I think is a stupid name, but it was something new. It had metal elements. It was heavy. There was crossover with metal, but I think it was something new. So for guys like me, you know, I craved these releases by Iron Maiden, by Judas Priest. And even though they weren't necessarily the style of the band that we grew up with, and B, they weren't necessarily up to the quality of the band we grew up with, you know, arguably, just for the sake of argument, it was all we had. So we grew to love these albums. You know, there's a certain soft spot in my heart for those Priest albums, Jugulator and Demolition, even though I'm not super keen on the Ripper era. I think the live albums are much better than the studio albums. We've talked about this in the past before. It's getting close.
Have the benefit of having a bunch of classic Priest songs on them. You know, I love Demolition. I'm not all that fond of Jugulator. I came up with the Jugulator effect when it's like you have to listen to like 30 seconds of industrial clanking and talking, and then there's a slow intro to a song, and then the chorus isn't even worth it. Like, you know, it's not a great song, but it's made worse by the fact that it takes you like 2 minutes to realize it's not a great song, and by that point it's sunk cost fallacy. So that's the Jugulator effect for me.
Okay, so I'm gonna
filled with songs like that.
I'm gonna say that 2-minute opening is awful, and it's just like, it's not like past Priest openers like you know, Electric Eye, where it's musical. It's just this annoying grinding riff with that sample of like the metal clanking sample, and then Ripper comes in with, you know, annihilators that get caught. It's not a really good introduction to the new lead singer. I like to start the song at the scream, and then it gets fast, and then Scott Travis comes in with the double bass and that riff. I love that riff. Unlike you, I do like the song Jugulator, although I understand what you mean. There's not really much of a chorus. It's just Jugulator. It's basically Painkiller Part 2. And like most Part 2s, it's not as good.
Spy. Don't get me wrong.
Cathedral Spires is great.
Song.
You know, we're going off.
Cathedral Spires is better than every other song on that album put together.
We're going off on a tangent here, but people are still watching, so I'm not going to wrap up the show yet. We may as well just keep going until people drop off. But yeah, like, this is something that Johnny Klauser covered on his series. And I think, did he have Jake, not from State Farm, on the Ripper album?
Yes, Jake was passionate about Ripper from what I remember.
Right. So Jake has that in common with Harrison, that he's like a replacement singer kind of guy in these cases. And we're going to be doing these Blaze albums with Jake. His schedule's a little crazy though, so we might have to throw some filler episodes in as we wind up the ones that we already have recorded. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
But we'll you know,
I just want to say that the Ripper albums are also receiving a sort of reappreciation and reappraisal. I have a friend that I saw just last week who said he saw Ripper earlier in the year, and that inspired him to go back to that era of Priest. And I personally got to give him my spare copy of 98 Live Meltdown.
That's cool. That's a great album. My only gripe is I thought the guitars were mixed too low, but that's a great album, and it's a perfect example of a lot of those songs being better live. Bloodstained in particular, I think that's the superior version of Bloodstained. Maiden fans, a lot of you guys like Priest. I know there was a rivalry in the 80s, though, a bit of a rivalry, but I don't think there is anymore. I think, you know, Rob and Bruce have performed together. The One You Love to Hate. They toured together. I think they did. Anyway, that was that weird period of the late 90s, early 2000s when you had to have guys like Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson perform together to get attention. Nowadays that kind of thing breaks the internet, but back then it was like it would make small waves. It was a weird time, and we're not there on this Iron Maiden series yet, but we are there as far as our recording ahead of time is going. And I don't know what the age groups are that are watching the show right now. I think they're closer to my age than your age, but I think a lot of them will have a lot of similar memories. How there were all these bands and all these music videos that seemed really faceless, and the music seemed really down a lot of the time.
Lead singers were dropping like flies, going solo.
In metal bands, yeah. Hey, Melissa. Hey, you're still here. Glad to hear you. Yeah, in metal bands for sure. The first die to fall was Vince Neil in 1991, or was it early 92? Vince Neil. Guitar players too. Poison kicked out C.C. DeVille. We had Judas Priest. We had Bruce Dickinson. We had Anthrax. Trying to think of some more. Van Halen eventually. Sammy Hagar quit in the mid-90s. And we're left with Gary Cherone. A lot of people have opinions on that. We won't get into that. But a lot of these bands did their best to carry on. And I think when you look back in terms of success, I can't think of any one of those bands that changed singers in the 90s that did better with the new singer. But you look back, and I think Maiden were top notch. I think of all those bands that changed singers, Motley Crue did the very best with John Corabi. I'll stand by that. Motley Crue did the very best with John Corabi, and the world shit all over him. That's a whole other subject, but that's a brilliant album. And then we have Iron Maiden, and they're kind of a very close second with the X Factor in terms of quality. I know it sounds weird to put Motley Crue over Iron Maiden, but that album,
I'd agree with you, and I'm not all that familiar with John Corabi. Like, the community has essentially sold me on the quality of that album, so I'm not going to argue there. Iron Maiden's was certainly a different style, but they did it very well, I think. If you try to imagine Bruce Dickinson singing on the X Factor, I think that would have flopped even worse than with Blaze.
But consider this, okay? Iron Maiden, a lot of those songs on that album are Harris writes. A lot of them would have been on the next album had Bruce stayed in the band. But Bruce also took a darker turn with Balls to Picasso. That's also a fantastic album. I mean, it was a really, in a lot of ways, it was a nice thing to be an Iron Maiden fan in 94, 95, because Balls to Picasso just grabbed onto me. It grew on me like fungus. And then Maiden came out with the X Factor, and it was completely different from Balls to Picasso, but I loved it too. So I had two albums with the singer I loved and with the band I loved. And they were both great albums. And you listen to a song on Balls to Picasso like Cyclops, and it kind of shows you what Bruce could have done in terms of singing that darker material on the X Factor. So yes, if Bruce had stayed in the band, there would have been no X Factor, but I think there would have been a Sign of the Cross and some of those other songs too. And I think
fair. I'll give you that. It's true that
Maiden would have got darker. Maiden would have got darker.
I'm not all that familiar with Bruce's solo career. Out of the three Maiden singers, it's my least the one I'm least interested in. Funny, because we're talking about all this in Replacement Singer. I would have really loved to see the alternate universe where Tony Martin got the Iron Maiden job instead of Bruce. Obviously, a completely different singer from Blaze Bayley, but I love Tony Martin, and I would have loved to hear him sing "Hallowed Be Thy Name" and all of that.
I would love to hear that as well, but in reality, the runner-up, I don't know how much farther ahead we want to get in our 50 Years of Iron Maiden story, but the runner-up was Doogie White, who ended up getting a pretty sweet gig with Richie Blackmore's Rainbow.
Yes, Blackmore snatched him away for Rainbow.
And, that's an album that, Stranger in Us All, that's an album that I didn't like at the time, but has grown on me over the years. And there's a brilliant double live with Doogie White called Black Masquerade.
Yes, I have that one. That actually is what introduced me to a lot of the Stranger in Us All songs, and I remember really liking all the Stranger in Us All songs whenever they came on.
Mine's a jewel case. I think
Mine is a double CD and DVD combo.
Okay. Highly recommended. I don't think I've reviewed it, but I like it quite a lot. It is 8:05. Maybe we should start wrapping up.
Yes.
Anything else we want to say? I've got one last clip I want to run. Maybe I'll run that and then gather our thoughts and think if there's anything else we want to say before we call it a night. But in the previous clip, you saw our good friend Jex Russell, and this last clip is completely unrelated to Iron Maiden, but it's all about Jex Russell. And he asked me to give this a little bit more exposure. So, of course, I had to oblige because, when Harrison was down and out last year, Jex Russell stepped up, John Clauser stepped up, and those two guys, they helped me keep this boat afloat. Not to mention, who doesn't love Jex? Right? Who doesn't love Jex Russell? So, I present to you Jex Russell, the Born Entertainer. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, I'd like to take a minute today to talk to you about herpes. I'm sorry. That's for the next guy. Here we go. Let us begin. Let us begin.
Is this like, what would I say if this was an actual person that was looking me in the eyes? Is that what?
Yeah, do that, yeah.
Like, okay, like you gotta look at the lens here,
yeah.
Like it's a person. What would I say right now? Can you give me like a scenario?
And also one thing I want to mention, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's a little signature here. Apparently this used to belong to Peggy O'Donnell. And let me just say, I absolutely love when people write their names on the cover of a record. It's amazing, it's wonderful, it's such a terrific thing, because it's so useful to me to know who this record used to belong to, right? And it must be my lucky day because this one comes with a phone number. Hi, is this Peggy? Peggy O'Donnell? Yeah, hi, Jex Russell here. Wow, what a lovely voice you have. Sorry, I forget why I'm calling. Oh yeah, I have a question for you. What are you wearing?
Alright, so I made up a joke tonight. Wait, I should close the door for this. If Jesus was to own a car, what kind of car would it be? A Chrysler.
Is this thing on? Yeah, my new theme song. Cut. Thank God.
That was deliberate.
Deliberate. You see what I did there? I pinched the nipple of the world. Is what I did. Twisted the nipple of the world.
That's being edited out.
Oh.
Yeah, boy. You know what? I don't need to take this. I'm taking the stairs. Or maybe I'll just take the elevator. Why do that when I could just take this escalator? I'm running out of room! Oh, are you laughing at me? I'm out of here. Good thing I got this perfectly crafted canoe. Saturday Night Live. Call me. So on that note, thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back. We'll be back next time, and make sure to leave comments, subscribe, and like. You're crazy, man.
So do like Jack says, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. So I have a couple things I want to say before we go. You want to go first or should I go first?
I didn't have anything much more to say.
Okay. So I will reiterate. Subscribe to the collection, Too Loud, Too Old Music, because we have an interview coming, John and I, that is going to knock your socks off. Subscribe and like Rock Daydream Nation. I am recording with Peter Kerr tomorrow night, and I don't know if I can say exactly what we're doing, but I will say it is Rush. And that's all I'm going to say. And like and subscribe to Bicycle Legs Talks Music. I'm recording with him on Monday. It is a holiday Monday here in Canada. We are doing something on the band that we mentioned earlier, a band called Marillion. That's all I'm going to say about that. But please support our friends at those channels. And we'll see you next week right here at this time and space. Grab a sack of rock. We're going to do Maiden. Actually, not this space. I'm going to be at the Cottage. It's a Cottage show, our first Cottage show on 50 Years of Iron Maiden. That'll be fun. So tune in next week for Maiden England, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 50 Years of Iron Maiden. How's that? We good?
I believe so.
You are satisfied. Excellent. Wait, one more comment here, Darcy. Day off, buddy. Day off. Can't wait. We always like to go out on a song. Do you have anything you want to hear tonight, or shall I pick?
Dealer's choice, I think.
Dealer's choice. Okay. In that case, something really rocking. Let's do Next Plane to Vegas by Max the Axe. So we'll see you next Friday on Grab a Stack of Rock, 50 Years of Iron Maiden with me and Harrison. Take care. Bye.
I can't put my thumbs up.
Crown Royal Apple. Slaint.
Captain Courageous, next plane to Vegas. I gotta go. Not so outrageous, next plane to Vegas. Win place. Oh, show me the money.